Welcome to No Clip, the podcast that's like a book club for people who don't think that books reward them enough for being good at them. I'm Chad Rutherman.
And I'm Andy Kinnick.
And today, we're going to be talking about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, a game that was developed by Simogo, published by Annapurna Interactive, RIP, and released in 2024 on Windows and Switch.
But first, if you can give us a like or a rating, it would be greatly appreciated.
So Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is a puzzle game. And as such, it's really difficult as a podcaster to talk around the solutions to puzzles. Mm-hmm. So this is definitely one of those, if the game interests you, probably play it beforehand, maybe listen a little bit in, because puzzle design is the most prominent kind of design that this game has.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there, because we don't actually talk about puzzle games a lot, though we have recently.
Yeah, this year is jam-packed with them.
Just absolutely full of puzzle games, and it's been an interesting experience. Like, I feel like I have gotten smarter at puzzle games than I was at the beginning of the year, so I do appreciate that, but I do also feel like this year has been sort of a showcase of how dumb I am.
Not to diminish your intelligence, but I feel like this is the most accessible Myst-like game we've played this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, well, there's a lot of things actually to get into right off the bat. So, yeah, so this is a puzzle game. However, it's a puzzle game that was, well, it's developed by Simogo and published by Annapurna. Both of those things deserve a mention. The first thing is that since the last time that we recorded a podcast, and in fact, and definitely since the last time that we talked about an Annapurna published game, everyone quit Annapurna Interactive. Which is a crazy thing to have happen.
Yeah.
And is a bummer for us, because I feel like obviously the publisher and the developer, two different things. We'll just have to find the developers doing their things elsewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, Annapurna was definitely one that we came back to the well on quite a few times.
Yeah. From what I understand, which is not much because I'm not a business person, but apparently they were trying to like negotiate a deal to like go independent from their parent company, and they were not able to work out a deal, so they all quit. And I feel like you don't do that unless you have a plan.
True.
So I assume, or maybe assume big air quotes. I could be totally wrong. That they're going to like get together and form their own company. So maybe we'll get Annapurna 2 Electric Boogaloo.
That would be good, yeah. Just like anything to keep sort of like that train running. Because we made jokes in the past about how they were like anything that they put out, we would be like, that seems like a thing that we could do for the podcast.
They're like the A24 of video games. Or they were.
Yeah. But yeah, and then the other thing was Simogo is a Swedish development company that we first played the game Year Walk, and since then have also played Device 6 and fucking Sayonara Wild Hearts, and really liked all of those games. So it's been like a kind of a through line that we've just been playing their new releases as they come out as well, and have enjoyed all of their stuff. So they're definitely like a star-studded developer-publisher duo here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you have not played any of those games, we recommend them all.
Yes, they're all very good. I really, really loved Sayonara Wild Hearts, like, a lot. That one is, like, the big standout for me, but both Your Walk and Device 6 are also outstanding, so, yeah, and so with that said, I put this game on our list the very second that I heard about it without looking into what it was at all.
Right.
And didn't know. And then we had the idea to do games named after women whose names start with L, the theme month.
Our best idea.
Our best idea we've ever had. No questions asked. And only now that we've played it did I even learn that it was a puzzle game. And honestly, I mean, I don't think that we would have not played it, but after the year we've had, I'm like, oh man, more of this.
Yeah, it does kind of start to wear you down a bit.
It really does. And this game is like so long for like puzzle games that aren't like games that just have like 1,000 million levels and nobody's even supposed to ever finish them all. Or for Simogo games. Like, this game is long in all contexts. And it was interesting because, like, I ended up playing this game. Like, I played it in several sittings, but, like, the grand, like the large portion of it was just in 3 full 8-hour work days where I played this just, like, all day. Like, got up and my knees were weak and locking up because I was sitting in a chair the entire day kind of game sessions. So I did kind of like live with this game for a while. And I'll tell you, the times when I wasn't doing that, when I had my mind focused on other things in between, it made the game, the game is like, it feels so right to be in it for a long time. And feels really hard to like do it in little bits and pieces. So that would be, I think maybe my biggest complaint with the game is that I feel like it is just a little too long to keep you from just like immersing yourself in it and getting through it. And I don't know if you had a similar experience. I know that I spent like 4 more hours in it than you, so not like a huge amount different.
I largely feel the opposite. Yeah, like I think it's just we're just different types of people. Like, I can't play games like this for a long time. Like after I play it for like maybe like 4 or so hours, which is a long time in and of itself, but it's no 8 hours. Like I'll start
I mean,
to,
it's no 8 hours.
Yeah. I'll start to hit a wall. And like I'm just like kind of too tired to like think through any more puzzles, and I'm like, I have to stop. I have to take a break. So yeah, but like I kind of like I get what you're saying. Like it is the kind of game that like I had to take like a couple of long breaks away from it, and that's definitely like detrimental because like you forget things. Be like, oh, like which shortcut doors did I have open? Like, who is this character? I feel like I have to go read and like study up on everything again, like in all the mental notes. And so, yeah, it's kind of like, I feel like you're right. It is a little long, I think, for the type of game it is, because like it's a lot of stuff. Yeah, you want to keep in the front of your brain, and like it's a lot of like the same kind of tasks. Like right. I had like a point when I first started playing it, and this is gonna sound like a dig at the game, but it isn't. Where I just had like a realization. I'm like, all I'm doing is unlocking doors. You know, like there's a great variety in presentation of that, but like really all you're doing is finding combinations to open locks. And I think doing that over and over again, even when it's as well designed as this, can kind of like, you know, drag on a bit.
Yeah, like a repetitive stress injury to the brain.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you say that, because I had like a similar realization, because like when I was like halfway into the game, I was thinking, and I still think this is true, this very much follows sort of a like an escape room type design, way more so than like this is a reasonably abstract game in terms of its themes and its presentation and everything, but it's so much of it is unlocking doors and unlocking doors using number puzzles, which is like the fucking like meat and potatoes of all escape rooms, essentially. But yeah, that does equate it to just unlocking a lot of doors. You unlock doors, you find things inside of the rooms, and those things help you unlock more doors.
Yeah.
And like an escape room, there's a clearly defined last thing that you need to do that everything should be leading up to. Like, yeah. That is an astute observation and one that is 100% accurate.
Yeah. Like, I think it is just an escape room game. Like, if you had to, like, clarify, like, a subgenre of puzzle game. And, like, one of my joke notes is, did Renzo invent escape rooms?
It's so funny because, like, we also coined the term, and I'm going to claim that we coined the term, even though I don't know if we did. Games. Well, big rooms games, but also this is more of a small rooms game.
Yeah.
But we also coined the term haunted house game in reference to the sort of amnesia style of horror game. And so I like that all of the like subgenres that we named on the podcast are also just things that you do with your friends for $20.
Yeah.
What do you want to do tonight? I don't know. Let's go to an escape room.
Yeah, haunted house, escape room.
Yeah, haunted house.
The combination.
Let's go to a big room.
Yeah. The combination haunted house and escape room.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's like sort of the larger structure of it. It's funny because like I agree that it sounds terrible to say when you're like, basically it's a game where you spend over 20 hours unlocking doors. But I do want to just like throw it right out on Front Street. Like, I think that this might be like my favorite puzzle game of all time, which is faint praise because I don't like puzzle games. It's like I can like puzzle games, but most of the time I do not. And this one, I feel like it nailed the difficulty like right on the head, which I think is always the hardest thing. And also one of those things where it's like, maybe I only think that because I am me. Because like puzzles are going to land differently for different people always. And to me, like this was a game that I was always able to figure everything out given enough time or, you know, hints. My biggest issues were always with navigating and finding stuff. Like, just like being on the lookout for things, like the exploration parts. But once I was presented with a puzzle, I was always able to figure it out eventually.
Yeah. Now, I agree. I think, like, I don't know if it's my favorite puzzle game. I haven't given it too much thought. But, like, it is, like, so much more accessible. Like, I would say it falls kind of, like, in the puzzle adventure kind of umbrella, kind of like something like Myst, where you're like dropped into a location and the game is just like untangling the knot and learning everything about the space. And yeah, like I just think it's like the most. I think I agree. The difficulty curve is nice, and I think like the puzzles are like paced out in a nice way. Like there are things that you'll find right at the beginning of the game that are used to solve the final puzzle, like to log into the computer, like those posters that are cut up are a good example. So yeah, good use of the space, and like I think it's also smart. I think, well, sometimes it could be a hindrance, but I think it's largely smart that like so many of the codes and combinations like relate to each other. Like you'll use like there's these certain years like 1847, 1963, 2014 that like keep coming up and keep being the answers to puzzles, and like there's and like certain names like Lorelei, Lorenzo, etc. like that you'll have to like keep in your brain and keep using. And sometimes that could throw me off. Like it took me what felt like an embarrassingly long time once I figured it out. There's the two guys that are locked up, like towards the out like the front of the house, and like the combination of one of the locks is just Lorelei, and the other one is Lorenzo. And it's just like, oh, these are like names I already knew. But like when I got to those sections, I was like, oh, this must be like its own new puzzle with its own, thing to figure out. But like I already had all the stuff I needed to find, like to solve it when I found it.
Yeah.
So
that
yes,
was
sometimes it threw me off.
For sure. That was my experience in this game constantly. I would be, no matter what it was, I would look at it and go, I can't solve this right now, and leave. And then I would stack up this big pile of things that I had to do. And then eventually you just come back and you just start trying those things. I think, like, I agree with you. I like the fact that there's sort of a limited amount of, like, part of what lends this game's, or what gives this game its more accessible sort of like vibe is the fact that you are always referring back to the same thing. So there's a smaller pool of possible answers. But it also at the same time does feel like those, there are 3 Roman numeral padlocks in the game, and the answers to all of them are just one of those 3 years that you mentioned. And you just have to go, it's like when you're given an exam and you don't know the answer, so you just put C. It's like I don't know if that counts as a puzzle. It's just like, I'll just try. I mean, it's a puzzle in as much as each of them have a different number of digits and you have to know which one it's going to be. But like, it's not really an exciting puzzle. There's not a lot of like material to it.
Yeah. Like, I'm glad to hear you say that, because like I figured there was some kind of clue as to like what to put in those locks that I just missed. But yeah, like in my head, it kind of related to like a more like macro puzzle of like realizing how everything relates to each other. Like I had like what I was just describing. I kind of had like a moment, probably a little over halfway through the game, where like I realized like, oh, like all these things are being repeated, and I feel like that's part of the solving the game, is that like you realize how much things relate to each other.
Yeah, I think going from like my understanding of it being nothing at all at the start of the game and and then sort of progressing, and like I thought that the 1847 was going to be like the number to keep coming back to for a long time, and then I slowly sort of like put together how each of them relate to all the other things, and then like getting to that crop of 3 numbers to keep coming back to. So like I didn't unlock the Roman numeral doors for a long time, though I feel like this is kind of a theme, because when I did finish the game, I love that there's a percentage of truth uncovered progress counter in the game, because it assured me that I was in fact making progress, even though I apparently did the game like I was scared of bosses in Demon Souls. Like I kept getting right up to the end of like a line of things that would eventually dead end and not finishing it. So like I got to the center of the maze, but I didn't know how to open the middle thing. So I didn't come back until like the next to last hour of me playing the game.
I think that's how that's supposed to go, though.
Yeah, it feels natural.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't feel like you're... Because, like, the first thing, like, the posters equating to the locked doors with the movie years into the computer, like, game style puzzles where you have to work out the thing with the magician from the past is all sort of one thing that leads up into getting like the login, like the username,
right?
And to me that felt like all one thing, and then the second 2 things in the login to the computer were the rest of the game and mashed together.
Yeah.
Like that one I like sat down and did and was like done with that part of the game, and then from then on it was just like I'm solving puzzles in a shotgun pattern.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like that it's something I hadn't really considered. Because like I kind of like it was all three things I didn't quite all come together till the very end for me. But yeah, like splitting them into like the three different codes into more like kind of paths might have been like a better like player experience.
Yeah. And I think it's cool to some extent that you're able to do anything at any point, like just however you're able to solve the puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
But it did feel like it felt almost overwhelming to me, where I would like quit playing and then be like, how do I now progress when I get back on the game? And you're like, well, I'm still missing one of the toy blocks. I don't know where the horse statues are. I don't know the code to 3 doors. I don't know how to open the document tubes. I don't like all, and you like start listing off all these things that you haven't figured out yet. And you're like, where do I even begin? I am in a bog of depression.
Yeah. I because we upload these videos to YouTube, and I like capture footage of the game to like just like put up to go along with the discussion, and like I kept putting off like recording the footage because like I don't want to like start up the game, have no idea where to go, and then just be wandering around the house for 2 hours and doing nothing. So like I didn't capture the footage till like halfway through the game when like I knew I had things to do. Right. So yeah, I definitely felt that at the beginning. You're just like, I don't know, like you feel like you dead end, but like for me, like what kind of sets this apart, and I don't really know how to quantify it, is like I kept having those epiphany moments at like just the right times. Like I remember just like being at a point where I didn't quite know where to go, and then like I just like got on the elevator and I was like, wait, what does the bell button for? And then I was like, oh wait, there's a poster with 3 bells on the 3rd floor, and like I felt like dumb that I didn't realize it earlier, but then like I rode it up to the 3rd floor, rang the bell 3 times, and there's like a whole fucking another floor or 2 to the hotel that like I just had not touched at all yet. So like those moments kept coming. I felt like at just the right points to like kind of keep me mostly smoothly going through it.
Yeah. I did like very intentionally so did not look up anything while I was playing the game because I didn't feel like I had to. I felt like I was always able to keep going. So even when I got very stuck, there were times that I was like, let's go through the mental notes. Let's see if I can find something or whatever. For some reason, that bell poster was like, did not pose a challenge to me whatsoever. And the reason is largely because I would just hit the bell button every time I got on the elevator. Just because I thought it was funny to do. Like, I would just click on it and be like, blah. Anyway, I'm going to floor 2. And so I did that like a bunch of times. And then I was going systematically, essentially. I tried to find everything on the 1st floor. Then I went to the elevator, went up to the 2nd floor, tried to find everything on the 2nd floor, then to the 3rd. Obviously, you go up and down a bit. But when I went up to the 3rd floor on the elevator, I was immediately just like, oh, okay, yeah, I pressed the bell button some more. My favorite thing to do. Because I kept thinking something was gonna happen.
Yeah, my brain like completely tuned it out. Like I just like I think I noticed it the first time, and then just was like didn't think anything of it, and then like 4 hours later, I can't get on the elevator. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this button for?
I will say the thing, I kind of ended up playing, maybe not playing the game on hard mode. That might be putting it too harshly, but there were several things in the game that I just never experienced at all. And they were I never drank coffee.
Oh yeah.
Which means that I never used the bladder mechanic. I do not know if the temperature means anything because I just put my coat on the coat rack the first time that I got there and then never touched it again. And I didn't use the maps because I didn't know how to get the maps until like 4 hours before I finished the game.
Oh wow.
It was like this was one of the like two things that I looked up was there's a door, and the code for the door is written on the map for the second floor.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how to find this code. I found nothing at all to tell me about this code. And so I Googled it, and somebody was like, look at the map. And I was like, the what?
Yeah, I don't remember where, like, what you even do to get the maps. So I feel like I had them all, like, within the first, like, hour or two of playing.
I played for 24 hours before I got a single one.
Yeah, I don't even remember what you do.
They're in the document tubes.
Oh, right.
Which
that was one of the first puzzles I solved, yeah.
That's what the funny thing is. If you look at my notes, they're also the first puzzles I solved, and I just didn't know where to use the information. I like found the drawing board.
Yeah.
And it contributes. Do you remember that time that I played Heaven's Vault? And I just spent 2 hours translating the whole book, and everyone made fun of me for doing it.
Yep.
I was like, look, it was helpful in the game. This is the opposite. Because I found those puzzles, I solved all the puzzles, I wrote the answers down, and then I forgot about it fully. And so when I started finding the document tubes, I did not put the names on the tubes with the names on the drawing board together, because I never went back to the drawing board.
You didn't go back to the drawing board?
Exactly. I refused to start over.
I feel like that's probably not an uncommon experience, just completely overlook something. Because, like, I never found any of the, like, handheld games.
You have to buy them.
Where?
There.
Like, because like I just never found anything to do with that. And then like I looked up a review earlier, and like one of the first things they show is like them playing a game on it. And I'm like, where the fuck do you get those?
I don't remember where you get it, but there's a catalog you can find that has a phone number.
Oh, that makes sense.
And you call the phone number and you place orders. The catalog has 2 Cocktease games in it, though, in the form of Year Walk Again and Device 7, which are both sold out if you try and buy them. You can get the handheld version of Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, which is just a maze game.
Okay.
And then the other 2, which I actually didn't play. I bought them and then didn't play them.
Yeah, I kept waiting for that to be a thing. I just completely missed that phone number.
No, it's. I mean, you don't get it till pretty late, or at least I didn't get it till pretty late, because I think what we've determined is that you can kind of do anything in any order.
Yeah,
so.
For sure.
Let's talk about, speaking of maze games.
Wait a minute. Before we get off of
stopping.
It, I had a thing to say, but then completely forgot to say it. Those supplementary mechanics, like drinking the coffee and the temperature, I wanted to mention that because, like, the coffee just lets you run when you drink it, and it's just like, why hide that till so late in the game? Like, that seemed really strange to me. Because like it's a thing with like utility, like a convenient, like a quality of life thing. It felt weird. Like at least I didn't get it till like I was 3/4 of the way through the game. But
I was at completion percentage 92% when I unlocked the door.
That seems strange to me. And then the temperature thing. Like I did the exact opposite. Like I just like for some reason never noticed the coat hangers as like a thing that I could interact with until I was like halfway through the game. So I just never took the coat off.
Okay.
But and then also I never found a use for them. There's tampons in your inventory. I kept waiting to use those to solve a puzzle. And never figured anything out with that.
Same. Yeah, I got 100% truth uncovered, which doesn't mean anything as far as I'm aware.
I think I got 95.
Yeah, it's just like, did you find all the documents, essentially?
Yeah.
And honestly, the percentage that you didn't get is probably just the games.
Oh, well, that would make sense.
Because those are
yeah.
all, like things in the
I kept
in the
thinking,
catalog.
like in my inventory, I had all the pieces of the red maze.
Yeah,
I was like, can you slot those like into the Game Boy and play them as games? You can't,
that would be pretty rad.
but that would have been cool. But anyway,
Yeah. But yeah, I think I completed the game 100%, quote unquote, not actually, but like by the game's definition, and never like found anywhere to use the tampons, or like I never found a situation where like me being at an uncomfortable temperature meant anything. I've heard that the stress level relates to when the maze man will show up, which is another mechanic I would like to talk about, but we can here in a second. So yeah, that was sort of like that was the arc. I also just didn't end up engaging with any of them. I'm wondering if they're mostly just there for flavor anyway. So yeah. But mazes. Speaking of mazes, this has come up on the podcast an uncomfortable number of times, frankly. It is a known fact. If I had a wiki page, it would say under like personality, hates mazes. I don't like mazes, both in video games or in real life.
it's on your dating profile.
Yeah. So, oh wait, sorry, I can't go on a date with him. He doesn't like mazes.
He can't take me to a cornstalk maze.
I would do a hedge maze, actually, because I feel like that's just like fancy.
Yeah.
A corn maze is designed to murder you. I'm convinced.
Of course.
Yeah. But there's a lot of reasons I don't like mazes. In real life, it's because I'm scared of them. In fake life, in video games, in Second Life, it is because I think that they're a really boring game mechanic. And yes, it is because I have a terrible sense of direction. Once again, also in video games and outside of them. But it is just like a lot of walking around. And this game makes you maze so much. It makes you maze so much, Andy.
It's amazing how much you maze.
It truly is.
Yeah, I guess I'm drinking the same Kool-Aid that Simogo is, because, like, there's something just, like, mysterious and interesting about mazes to me. And I like doing them.
Fair enough. I just love doing them.
I wouldn't say I love it, but I like a good maze. Like, one of my favorite things about the game, like, as, like, it is probably just my own brain, like, latching on to something, but, like, I like the idea, like, it almost feels like it was, like, the creative spark that might have, like, where the idea for the game came from, is, like, the two mazes that relate to each other. Like, you have the quiz club and the red maze, and I really like the idea that, like, taking the pieces out of the red maze breaks the windows in the quiz club. Like, something about those two areas interacting and having to realize it, which is really cool to me. Like, I think, like, for, like, a Myst style puzzle game, that's, like, a really great concept.
I mean, I agree with that much of it. Like, I think that there is, if I started by saying I like this game, so take these. These are light criticisms. Like, these are not things that ruined the game for me. I will say that, like, video games have done mazes a lot. Mazes are like some of the earliest video games of all time.
Like,
and also,
Realms of the Haunting.
Yeah, Realms of the Haunting
mazes,
had the brain maze.
And the hedge maze.
And a hedge maze. Resident Evil 4 has a hedge maze. These are games that I put on equal standing, as we all know.
Equal quality.
Equal quality. Realms of the Haunting, Resident Evil, basically the same. But also games have been doing the, like, two worlds thing a lot forever, since A Link to the Past, essentially. And I really like its implementation here. I do like the fact that there's, like, this connection between the worlds, and there's an abstraction that I think we'll talk about more in the second half in the game with this concept of quote unquote laser eyes and like the ability to see another world is it's executed in such like an artistically cool way in this game that I can't help but like really love it. I love all the effects surrounding it. I love the fact that there's like mechanical implications to it. Just a lot of stuff that I really enjoy. I think to me, it's just like it builds on that. I think the game is just a bit too long thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like the maze is like a central part of the game's narrative. So it's not like I'm saying get rid of the maze. I like the maze in concept, and I like all the things that they do with like the pieces of the maze and everything. It's just like having to go through the maze twice and doing it like with different hindrances made it feel like a third of the game was just walking in mazes.
Yeah. It's the fact that like you will keep coming back to them because, you know, it's like a big mysterious puzzle game that you don't really figure out till the end. Yeah, you will like leave, go do a bunch of other stuff, not know what to do, and be like, oh, I guess I'll go like try the maze again. Like there was an underground part to the maze, never found out how to get there. Maybe I'll try that. Then you walk around it again. You know, you pick up all the pieces, try to walk through it broken, and it's harder. It takes longer to do. You know, yeah. So you will like keep coming back to it, and that is kind of annoying.
Yeah. Well, I did the first maze, the red maze, in one go. Like I just entered, collected all the pieces, made it to the center, and then bailed, and then didn't come back to it until I had finished the quiz club. The quiz club, though, I did do this. Like,
oh yeah, I was the opposite.
Oh,
I went to the quiz club once and was like, oh, I need to like essentially find all the memories to get through here, so I just didn't come back to it forever.
Okay. I would go in, get stuff, because when I got stuck, what I wanted to do always is just like find new things to try. So I would go into the quiz club, fight my way as far as I could to get as many keys as I could, and then come back out, save, use all the keys.
Yeah, I think I got to the quiz club before the red maze and didn't realize that like the window breaking thing like revealed the keys in the quiz club. So like I didn't figure that out for a while.
Right. Yeah, that's a completely different experience, which is crazy.
Yeah, and
like,
I also
the fact that I did all of that meant that there was never an unbroken window that I found.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I also like thought I didn't realize you could just like leave and save. Like I assumed you had to do it all in one go.
Yeah, and they like put doors in specifically to leave, like what with like checkpoints essentially.
Yeah.
Throughout, which was very helpful. I will say my big complaint about the quiz club, which is my preferred of the two mazes, is the fact that the guy at the end asks you a question that you have no way of knowing if you're able to answer until you ask it. And then you can just lose a bunch of progress, which is what happened to me.
Right.
I got through like 4 or 5 dudes and then got to the center, and I had the inscription from the Minotaur, and he was like, can you answer it? And then it pops up Greek letters, and I was like, nobody told me that I had to run this through the bug report cipher before I could answer it. So I just died and had to do everything again, which might be fueling some of my vitriol toward these mazes.
Right.
So that was a little frustrating. But otherwise, yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't think that the mazes are like that bad, but I also more agree with me in that I don't like them. I feel like what we've been doing is we've been going in circles.
Lost in
we
a maze.
haven't been following the left-hand rule. We're
Right.
lost in the maze. And we need to reconvene at the center of the maze. After the break. Nice.
Hell yeah.
dream in black and white. See it all through laser eyes. I am an old woman.
Welcome back. Hold on. I don't want to edit that.
What does he call her? Signorina?
Signorina? Yeah, I actually don't know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, like
I don't even know what. Is it Italian?
I don't know, because like at first I was just like, I just read it as Senorita, and then I was like, wait, no. It was like one of those things where your brain just like reads it a certain way, and then you like can't stop doing it that way.
Like what did I think pearls were? Priz.
Oh, Priz.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. Welcome back, Signorina.
Welcome back.
Dance
He
the
does
dance
also
of
call
life.
her Bella.
Yeah.
Welcome back for the third time. I'll probably include some of that because it leads into something that I do want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am much more intrigued. Intrigued is probably not the word for it. I really like the visuals of this game.
Mm-hmm.
I like the art style that they went with. I like the way that they use it in ways to draw your attention to things as like a puzzle game in a mechanical sense. But I do want to talk at least briefly about the narrative of this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the most interesting things about it to me is that the game like tells you what its narrative is. I was so expecting this to be the kind of game that just didn't provide a concrete answer, and then
Right.
it does at the end, which is wild.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either. Yeah, like I feel like there's a lot of things about it I like too. Like I love the art style as well. Like I feel like I should have more to say about it. But like it I feel like it's just really good execution of a thing I've seen before. You know, just like black and white with a splash of color is a thing other games have done. But like yeah, it's just really well done here. And yeah, like the narrative, like it has like this like quality to it. Like I feel like the pre like the stationary camera, like the very like, you know, Resident Evil style camera thing it has going on. Oh, like
Yeah.
kept reminding me of security camera footage. And then I like there's parts of the story that like feel like a stage play. And like I feel like that kind of like subconsciously like almost kind of clues you into like some of like the nature of the narrative. Like it because like it had a hard time like distinguishing between characters for a while, and then I had the moment of like, are they all the same guy? You know, like
Right.
you know, and it's just like I feel like there's this like feeling of like you kind of like subconsciously put that together that like there's this one guy playing these multiple characters, and it's like I think it's really cool how all that's like conveyed.
Yeah. I love it because it starts out like sort of introducing itself as kind of a period piece.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see the like we talked about on the first half like the prevalence of those 3 years that they keep coming back to.
Mm-hmm.
And what they relate to are 1847 is like the time where the story that the characters in the game are sort of like talking about, the story about the third eye and Lorenzo and Renat
Mm-hmm.
it takes place in. And then 1963, which is the year that Lorelei, the actual main character of the game, also known as Bella or just Senorita or any of these other names,
Mm-hmm.
accidentally kills her husband.
Mm-hmm.
Happens, and then 2014, which is like the actual year that the game takes place in. But it like until you start putting those things together, you can take it in so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And it works so well because like you have this character who's like a lifelong artist, is sort of like in the final moments of her life, thinking back on her life in the idea of like a play or a film, some kind of like staged thing where he's constantly painting things with red paint, and it is red paint in the world of the game as far as like the literal interpretation is red paint, but it also represents blood in a very literal sense because she is like sort of abstracting that away herself out of trauma. There are all these things that like you have no context for at the beginning and pick up over time and can sort of like, they're really obvious ones like the blood, and then less obvious ones throughout that I'm going to say, you know, those, and then not provide an example because I didn't think ahead for this sentence. That you'll sort of like piece together over time. And it's great. Like, it's such a good way of like sort of very slowly revealing. And then for the game to actually be like, here's a conclusion to the game that makes sense. I was like, no way.
Yeah.
I've played too many indie games to think that they were going to just tell me the answers.
It is unexpected for sure. Yeah, because like, when the game starts, like it explicitly tells you it is 1963. So like that took me a long time to let go of. Like I kept having like this theory in my head, and I guess spoilers for the movie Arrival. But like I was like, is she like experiencing time non-linearly? Like, is the girl in the owl mask her as a kid, and the old lady her as an old lady? And she's like seeing things from her future and her past all at the same time. You know, like I kept thinking about that. And yeah, like it's the kind of thing that like you slowly like kind of pick up on the true nature of it, but like it really gets your mind going. Like I was definitely doing a bit of theory crafting the whole time I was playing.
Yeah, which is, I think my suspicion is that they give you the answer at the end because it's so hard to think about the implication narratively of the things that you're doing while also solving like 200 puzzles.
Right. It's a lot to think about.
There's a lot of brain power that you have to put into these things, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's sort of like my thing on the narrative. It largely is just that like I like the way that everything sort of bleeds into each other. There are definitely elements of the story that I can't like currently sort of like attach to other real world events that it would make the narrative like more comprehensive, but that's kind of it. I liked it. I thought it was pleasingly connected, and I liked all of the symbolism in it.
Yeah, I felt like kind of
yeah.
refreshing that they just told you what happened.
It was nice. I feel like we've been playing so many games where they don't do that, that suddenly to have it is something else.
Especially because this is like such an artsy game. I feel like that's such like an artsy game cliche, is to have like the narrative up to interpretation.
I mean, we played Kentucky Route Zero,
Signalis, things
Signalis, yeah, Dujana. Games that literally have art galleries in them,
right?
Such like this one, and yeah, this is the only one that just kind of came right out and said what it was about.
Yeah, it's like a nice reward for finally like figuring everything out. I really liked the moment where you finally give Renzo all the scripts.
Oh yeah,
and like you open the door and like there's nobody in there. It's just like a corpse or a skeleton or whatever. Like I feel like that's like that happens in another game, but I can't like put my finger on it. Like, is it like Bloodborne or something? Where like the guy... I mean,
it was an obvious Bloodborne reference where you give the passcode to the guy to get into the Forbidden Woods,
right? Yeah, and then he's dead.
And when you talk to him, it just says "already dead."
Yeah. I guess that is what I'm thinking of then. Yeah. It's really, I don't know. Maybe just tickled that part of my brain that remembered that, but like I just thought that was cool.
I did. I just assumed that it was my just sort of usual brain rot that I saw a skeleton in a chair and immediately was like, already dead.
It definitely made me think of that as well.
Yeah, it's but no, and it also is just a great moment. Also, there's a lot of sort of like reveals in the game, and sometimes it's like, here's just like the solution to a puzzle that you've been waiting for a long time. Like, you've gone through a lot of things, and then you finally find like the last block or like the last horse statue, one of those things.
But
then,
finish your thought.
I was just saying, then sometimes it is a narrative reveal, like when you get into the orangery, which is a word I've never heard of before.
Me neither.
And like you just get interrupted by man, and he's behind you, and he gives you like sort of a spiel. And that to me was always also satisfying.
That was like scary sometimes. Because, like, there's, like, usually no one in the hotel with you. Like, I remember I solved the piano puzzle on, like, the second or third floor, whichever one it is. And then when you finish it, he's just behind you. And, like, it in a spot where, like, it takes you, or at least it took me a second to notice him. I was like, oh, shit. Like, there's a dude right there.
That's one of the strengths of the art style, to come back to that for a second. Like, they use this sort of, like, it's a grayscale, like, polygonal art style. Like, it is a very, which relates, like, to, in the narrative of the game, Lorelei created, like, polygonal art on computers.
That was another thing that made me think, like, oh, she's, like, seeing into the future. Like, she shouldn't, like, know about, like, polygonal art styles, but she does. But no, they do this thing, there's probably a word for it, but, like, the periphery of the image kind of like fades out to like a texture.
I want to say
it's like
vignette.
It is like a vignette effect, but like I don't know if there's more specific. It's cool how it like fades out, like the depth of field or whatever. I think that's kind of interesting, but like it did lead to a few parts where like I just didn't like. I was probably over 15 hours into the game before I found the door that led down to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like I went into that room so many times and never noticed there was a door that I hadn't gone through that led down to the cellar. Cause I'm like, because I opened the 2014 door, which leads you to the wine cellar. And I noticed like there's this other part of the map. I'm like, how do you get there? And then like I eventually there's just a door that wasn't even locked.
I think some of that is definitely intentional. Like there's in the backyard, right? There are two. That's extreme narrowcasting.
Yeah. We are a narrowcast, though.
That is true. Send us an email as to what song he just referenced, and we'll send you a good job email.
Yeah.
But in the backyard, there's the answers that you need. But also there are two like wings that you can walk down to like parts of the hotel. And I discovered that you could even walk back there for both of them when I unlocked the shortcuts that led to them.
Oh, yeah.
So like I just didn't know you could go back there. I think they just had money there.
Yeah.
But
American dollars.
But I do feel like it was intentional that you weren't supposed to immediately find some of those locations.
For sure,
and like
for
if
sure.
you do, then you just kind of get like a preview of like where you could be going.
Yeah. It's just like they put arrows on the floor to like you signal them. Just didn't notice it. Just didn't notice.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't say that the art style doesn't lend itself to sort of like sometimes being difficult to like see things.
Sometimes,
that you need
like
to,
your brain just kind of like tunes it out.
Yeah. But yeah, overall though, it still looks really good.
Oh yeah, it looks great.
And yeah, it's just a good execution of sort of what they're going for. Also sound design, like there's not a lot of music in the game.
That fucking computer sound effect.
The computer sound effect is incredible.
Yeah, every time you save, that's such a good sound.
Yeah. Just like, lots of very like just real accurate sort of crunchy sound effects.
Like the sound of the elevator. And like there's so many good ones, yeah.
is all very strong. I do want to shout out at least one, definitely, maybe two new tracks featuring Linnea Olson, who's the person who did the soundtrack for Sayonara Wild Hearts.
She does like the end credits theme.
Yeah,
and then like,
which is always great to hear.
Oh yeah, like it's like I Dream of Black and White or whatever. Like after you do the piano puzzle and they dance.
That's what it is.
I think that song is sung by her.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. That was the other one I was thinking of. But that was so long ago.
I thought that was such a cool song.
Forgotten.
That's why I remember the name of it.
That's a good song. Yeah. Man, that piano puzzle, thank God it was just look at the numbers on the keys.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bad history with piano related puzzles.
Yeah.
Video games.
Yeah, I was almost like disappointed that like you did like I was like, oh man, it's like just knowing how to read music gonna let me just like do this. It didn't. But no, I mean that's obviously for the best. But no, yeah, I thought that puzzle was cool. Because it's a music puzzle
other ways to do
like that didn't require you to know anything about music to solve it.
The one I'll say, okay, let's just rapid fire. What was the hardest puzzle for you?
Ooh,
and I'll tell you what mine was.
You go first.
All right, hardest puzzle for me, and this is like, I almost just like broke down and was like, I just gotta, I am not a man.
Mm-hmm. You're a mist boy.
Bug. I'm a mist boy, not a mist man. When I had to do it was the third level of the catacomb puzzle.
Oh,
where you have to rotate the year to match the thing. I did look it up. A lot of this game is randomized, so like you can't
just look up the answers.
Yeah, so nobody was giving me any like relevant information to my actual problem, which is that my brain just can't visualize doing that, like rotating an image and flipping it. Like I can't do it. But somebody gave me this amazing advice, which if you've listened this far into the podcast and haven't played the game, keep this one in mind if you are incapable of picturing.
Yeah, if you're a fellow
like
mist boy.
Yeah, if you're a mist boy, if you draw the map and then just draw the year next to it and then turn the paper, you can look at what the year looks like in the final orientation. But that still took me, like, I got through the first two in like 5 minutes. And then I spent like a half an hour on the third floor just panicking that I would never be able to complete that.
No, that's a really good call out. That one gave me trouble too. And like even like the second hallway gave me trouble because like I felt another one of those things felt so dumb because like it's like you have to put the little diamond in the spot where it is in the square on the map, which I immediately thought of. But like I thought the square I was looking at was a representation of the whole map and not just the square. So I was like putting it like in completely the wrong spot and being like, I feel like that's gotta be right. And then eventually had like, oh, it's just the square. Duh. That makes this so much easier. But yeah. My brain is better at flipping objects. But like that was still difficult. Cause like the fact that like you realize that like it's not just rotating it, it's also mirroring. Because, like, you can spend a lot of time fucking with it and being like, oh, shit. Like, 2 of these are mirrored also. I wasn't even thinking about that. So, yeah, those are great call-outs. Yeah, I don't know.
I just, to me, like, in my head, it's like, you know, like, the concept of object permanence? It's like a thing that babies get when they're 6 months to a year old. Yeah. Where, if you see something that you know that it's the same object. I like was doing that puzzle and imagining that like if I saw someone for the first time in a mirror and then met them again later, I wouldn't recognize them. I was like, is my brain fundamentally broken because I can't do this?
Whose brain isn't fundamentally broken, am I right?
You are so right. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, like I don't know if I can call it like a specific puzzle so much as like I think that end kind of I would almost call it like gauntlet of like having to like have all that stuff come together of like getting the codes to get into the middle of the red maze, to like get down to the bottom floor, to then like getting the combinations from the games to get into the catacombs, and like those last couple of steps, like all of that coming together was like, that was the last like probably 5+ hours of me playing, was like I was like butting up against that and like finally breaking through that wall to like actually get that part going was probably the hardest part. Like just like pulling everything together.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, I don't agree that it's the hardest because I already said what mine was.
Yeah, no,
but
that's just the answer for like like individual puzzle is those.
Right.
I think you sniped that one.
But yeah, I think that ending, it was putting things together. It was like realizing how much overlap those
exactly.
things had,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that they were on like the same track at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because I agree, that was one of those things. Like, I wouldn't have done that in the time that I did if I wasn't playing it as part of like not a single 9-hour play session.
Right.
Like, if I had been playing like a few hours and then I went to bed, my brain would have flushed so much of that information in between, and like I wouldn't have been able to, because that did happen to me with the bug reports.
Right.
I did.
God,
the
I had
first
no
one of
idea what
them.
to do with those. Like when I got
Yep.
them, I'm like, and
Who
like
knows?
putting that stuff together was hard, I thought.
Yeah. So like I didn't think about those for a long time until I got to the point where I had to use them, especially considering I completed the maze all at once, and that was before I did any of the bug report stuff. So.
Yeah, and I like realizing like you needed to use the puzzle boxes to read, like to read the bits of paper in the puzzle boxes to say things to the old lady took me a while, because like I remember like I was really hung up on doing all those puzzle box rooms in the middle chunk of the game. And I got them all, and I was like, God damn it. Like, this was optional. Like, I had no idea what to do with the stuff. Like, and then, like, yeah, like, later I was like, oh, yeah, like, I have not checked the old lady, help the old lady off the list yet. And, like, same thing with, like, the video cassettes. That was one. Like, I should have been checking that, like, mental notes thing more often. Because, like, I'd completely forgotten about the video cassettes. And when I got them, I'm like, oh, yeah. There was that TV.
That was I was fortunate. So one of the things that I wrote down, keeping in mind that I wrote down like functionally every piece of information that the game gave me, I ran out of ink in a pen. I took a pen out of a package and used all of the ink in it and had to get a new one before I finished this game. I had just written down this. Which is just a bunch of arrows in a row.
The heads turning, yeah.
But didn't actually write what it was. And so when it came time to use it, I just didn't know what.
Yeah, see, I wrote woman and man above them, so.
I did. I went back eventually and did that. Like, I think the art, I had written them down as, yeah. I ended up circling them and moving them somewhere else. So
artist tape, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a lot of the source of my confusion while playing this game was just my incredibly bad and messy note taking.
Sure. Yeah, I like, even though the game like tells you to keep notes, like for a long time I just kept taking pictures on my phone of stuff. Like I'm like, oh, like that's gonna be a thing I need to remember. I'll take a picture of it. Like that helped really like a lot with the maze. Like just having a picture of it I could look at on my phone.
Right.
But yeah, like I did eventually end up like also taking notes, but mine were like so unorganized as well. I was like,
yeah,
I really should have, kept more organized notes like the game said to.
It's funny because if you go back, like the other thing that I used this notebook for, and this is in crayon, please don't judge me, is
it
but
Tunic?
these are it's notes from Signalis, which are only 2 pages, but also feature things like moon phases
Yep.
and shit, which is crazy. So yeah, there's just like a lot going on. This is like we can't do the Moleskin Award
Right.
if you listen to the No Clip Awards last year, because this is just like the obvious shoe-in. I've never written more stuff
Yeah.
down for a game than this.
Yeah, I don't know, though. Like, we've also done other games you could have taken a lot of notes for.
That's true.
Abduction and stuff, but...
That's true, and Abduction is a game where you would have to like have a long-standing sort of journal in order to have all the information you need to complete it. So, yeah, but yeah, and I bring even bringing up the most difficult puzzle as a concept is to me largely just to emphasize that like there aren't that many that are like really hard. The difficult thing is finding the associations between the puzzles.
Right.
And I think that element of the design is really strong. The fact that everything sort of like fits into something else sets you off on these domino like strings of discovery where you're like, oh, now that I have that, like that astrological clock at the beginning of the game, I had fucking no idea how to read at all. And I didn't open it until like the last a few hours.
Yeah,
of
it's
the
a
game.
late game thing.
But like you go and you're like, okay, revolver key into the revolver door, mannequins into the journal, into the astrological clock, into the days of the week, into the cylinder, into the catacombs. Like it's this big long string of events.
Yeah, it's like dominoes.
Yeah,
You just
it's
gotta
crazy.
you just gotta find the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like how quickly it all sort of snowballs, and it's such a good feeling for a puzzle game to give you. I just really appreciated that stuff a good bit.
Yeah, 100%. Something we mentioned before we started recording was the money, like the in-game economy. Like I had probably like $28 or something at one point. Hadn't found anything to do with it except the capsule machine. So I was just like, well, fuck it. Like, I'm just gonna buy all of these. And just sat there and bought all of them. And then like immediately after I like found out how to get into the magician's caravan, and there were like two guys who were like, pay me $10 for whatever the information they give you. And I'm like, God damn it. Like, I was like, I finally gotten to the point where I convinced myself I wasn't going to need the money for something else. And then I immediately needed it.
Yeah. It's interesting, too, because, like, this is, I will say, I like the implementation of the money to some extent. Neither of us found the coffee until very late in the game. And that is $10 just flat out for the ability to run. Pay to win, greedy devs, lazy devs. But otherwise, it's like it frames it right up front because they give you the instruction manual for the game in the glove box of your car, which also, you know, maybe this is too many tangents to go off on at the same time.
Whatever.
When you like started the game, did you try and get in the car and turn it on?
Yes.
It says if you inspect the car key, it's like this is a plastic ass car key.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it's like this is a car key. It's made of plastic. It's common in rentals, and they also commonly would break when people use them. And I was like, that's foreshadowing that because I tried to start the car, I've weakened the key, and then if I try and leave later during some kind of like Halo Metroid endgame event where the hotel is falling down, I won't be able to turn the car on because the key will break. And I like logged that, and then obviously that just never happened because you aren't really there.
Right.
It takes place in the brain of a dying woman.
Maybe that's like like if you try to leave several times, it just does break, and that's like the explanation as to why you can't or something.
That is, yeah, that's very possible. But in the instruction manual that you get at the beginning, it says like you won't need any of the things that you can buy with American dollars to complete the game. And et cetera, et cetera. Like, these are optional things that you don't have to worry about not being able to afford. And I was like, okay, cool. And started playing the game. But as what I told you before we started recording, that I was like, this is unimportant information. Here it is anyway. I save scummed to get an achievement where I saved before spending all of my money on the capsule machine, got that achievement, and then reloaded the game and then spent my money on the visions. And it's so funny because, like, the capsule machine is just Simogo
Easter eggs.
Masturbating themselves.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, Easter eggs. That's what people call
Yeah.
that. And the games are like fun side things, but aren't related to the story of Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. But the lore is like, it's related in a more tangential way because it's not part of like the whole narrative, but it is like, it references like the third eye and has like additional iterations of the same characters in those stories. And I'm like, I feel like this shouldn't have been $40. Like, to get all of this information, I feel like this shouldn't be behind the paywall, the in-game currency American dollars paywall. So I was a little disappointed by that, even though I saved scum to get it anyway. I do feel like it should have been more accessible to more people because they're cool stories. That's all.
Yeah. I guess. Do you want to talk about the console games that you need to play, like, get the bug reports?
Oh yeah.
Because that was like one of the most like memorable parts of the game when I booted up the first one, and then it just changes to like a PS1 art style.
Well, first things first, how did you feel about the game having like 3 distinct control schemes, despite only using one button and the arrow keys, or WASD?
I don't know. I was mostly just annoyed that it had tank controls.
Yeah.
That was annoying. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's. I almost kind of wish they were more different from each other.
Yeah, I would have been okay. I do wish that, because then I wouldn't walk out of every one of them and then go like,
right, yeah.
for 3 seconds while I readjust myself to how my character moves. But that's it. That's all I had to say. Anyway, moving on about the things, because I did like them overall.
Yeah, I don't know I have too much more to say about them, but like, it's just really cool. Like, it's, I feel like that kind of PS1 N64 aesthetic has like kind of slowly built up a like niche in indie games. And like, it's cool to see like a like actual developer, or not actual, but like you know what I mean, non-indie developer
Right.
clearly like have a fondness for that too, and like find a way to incorporate it into their game. So yeah, I don't know. It felt really charming to me.
Yeah, I agree. I thought they were really cool. I liked the fact that like all of the it's funny because like this game's tone walks kind of aligned. Like, at its heart, it's like a mystery game where you're sort of like uncovering things that happened. But like, it's clear that like all of the game sections are taking inspiration from sort of like that PS1 era of like Resident Evil and like other like PS1 action games, like with the library that's like an old gothic library. Like, I can imagine playing like God Hand or something in that like level and stuff. It's a very cool aesthetic, and sort of like allowed them to express more sort of different tones and things within the game in a safe, cool way.
Yeah, same thing with those the visions that were like from the floppy disks that you load up in the computer. being like old. I don't even know what you would call that style, like old, like Matrix something, like
Yeah,
computer.
like the old DOS games.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some like a couple of them were like very point and click.
Mm-hmm.
The one where you walk through mazes is very Windows 98 screensaver.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like those as well. It's funny because like that feels like like a decade ago is when I played those.
Yeah.
It's only been like a week and a half or something, but yeah. There are several of them that I thought were really cool. I loved the because we played Perfect Tides recently, which is also a modern game that was like designed after adventure games from like the late 80s, early 90s. And then for this to like the one that takes place in your like living room and you have to like click through the TV channels to get the message was giving me like Perfect Tide sort of like vibes to it. It's like, oh, I'll check out like the art that's on the wall and it tells like a story. Like, I got this from my friend. I'm like, what am I playing right now? It's like a very different world than I thought this game took place in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just cool how they're able to like incorporate like multiple different like kind of like little ideas into the full game in like a cohesive way. Same thing with like the little
Agreed.
handheld Game Boy thing as well.
Yeah. I would love to have a Game Boy like that in reality where you could
Where
get
can
a cartridge.
I find a Game Boy like that?
But I would love a Game Boy that you could install games onto using a cartridge. It just is a very analog and fun thing. But then it's also convenient because you could walk around with like 3 games,
Yeah.
which you could not do with a regular Game Boy.
I think they make things like that, at least for like the N64. It's like a cartridge that you can just like install ROMs on, and you just have to have
that's
like
true,
one
yeah.
cartridge.
Literally the fact that I said this is like, yeah, there's probably like dozens of these things, huh?
Have we reached the center of the maze?
I think we might have, yeah. Do we have 4 horsemen thoughts?
The 4 horsemen of my Thoughtpocalypse are no surprise. I thought this game slapped. We are big Simogo fanboys, and they delivered another great game. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to kind of sum it up. I think this is very much like the most accessible, like kind of what I've been calling a Myst style game, like a game where you're dropped into the world and you just have to figure out everything about it. I had to look up 1 or 2 things towards the end, because I am a Myst boy and not a Myst man. But otherwise, like I found that like everything was really doable. I did have to take long stretches where I wasn't playing it, so it was kind of hard to keep everything in the brain. Yeah, like I really enjoyed my time with it. I think the game looks great. I think it gives off this vibe of like, I think it's just so artistically done where like, I think I was trying to get out towards the middle of the discussion. Like it kind of feels like a stage play. And like, there's like the fact that like the camera angles kind of feel like security cameras. Like, I feel like there's a lot of these like aesthetic and artistic touches that kind of almost like foreshadow or like subconsciously kind of clue you into like the true nature of it, which I think is really cool. So yeah, I think like if you like pitched this game to me, like it's basically just like Brain Teasers, the video game. Like all you do is just like solve little puzzles. Like I feel like I would imagine something that like wasn't very good. I was like, I feel like that would get old pretty quick, but they really pull it off. I think they managed to like the variety of like in the presentation, I think really goes a long way. To like not feel like you're always doing the same kinds of things. And I think like the big kind of central puzzle of like realizing how the 2 mazes relate to each other and like how to like get into the catacombs and et cetera, et cetera. It's some of like my favorite puzzle design I've seen in a while. So I'll quit just saying that the game is real good and and end my final thoughts by being like saying just game did not disappoint. I really really liked it.
Yeah. I mostly agree with all of that. I think if I had qualms with the game, it's that it made me do mazes again, a thing that I will always want to avoid. But also just like it gets there are elements of it that get a little bit repetitive and make the game too long. Like there are too many puzzle boxes to solve. I think it feels kind of excessive to have you do puzzles that are all kind of the same, of like look at a number from a certain angle to solve it. And but otherwise, like I think it nails everything. There's a complaint that I've brought up on other episodes is something that I refer to as like newspaper puzzles, where it's like a puzzle that you could easily represent in a newspaper. It doesn't take advantage of the fact that you're in a video game, that there's more ways of interacting. And this game does have a lot of those, especially in the realm of like the shortcut puzzles, which are like almost literally exactly that style. But the game does everything so stylishly that is what is supplementing sort of the simplicity of the puzzles. And that simplicity does not mean that there isn't a greater complexity to the game. It's just the individual pieces are all a lot simpler than you will think they are at the outset. And to me, that's like a very satisfying curve to sort of take with it, because you can figure out small pieces and then use the solutions to those in order to get to the grander things in the game. So to me, like, style wins out over substance here. I think that the game looks really cool. I think that I really like the way that the narrative is told. I love the way that the puzzles interconnect with each other. And I love like the small moments of like surprise that happen in and out with different characters showing up and things that you don't expect being parts of the story. And so I agree. Yeah, I think Simogo just kind of, if they really set their mind to a fucking tone, they can nail it. And I mean, they kind of have a style. Mm-hmm. This isn't that different from Year Walk or from Device 6, but obviously the interaction in the games is wildly different. But they have learned that style well, and it's something that I will be there for pretty much whenever they whip it out. So, yeah, I also enjoyed this a good bit. Thank you for listening to No Clip this week.
What are we talking about next time?
Next time, we are taking a break from our extremely popular games named after women whose names begin with the letter L theme, because it is Halloween. Woo!
Yeah, I had to go to New York unexpectedly last week, so I delayed this episode.
I broke the dam. There, and honestly, October, we ain't making it, boys. Like, it isn't. We aren't getting all 4 games out next month either. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you ahead of time, because we have a lot of shit planned as well. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, we'll have a more regular rhythm next year, but this year has been extremely busy.
Everything happened this year.
Everything did. 2024 was the year. People will say time might not have started until 2024. It was that busy of a year. So be aware of that. But next time, we're going to be talking about Crow Country. And then after the whole month of October and then a little bit of November, we will be coming back to do Loretta. So, yes.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll complete the L quadrilogy.
Yeah, a thing everybody definitely wanted us to do.
Yeah, but Crow Country is like a Resident Evil kind of style throwback survival horror indie game that looks a little bit more N64 in style. So looked like a cool, right up our alley, all the buzzwords.
Yeah, we're kind of doing a retro throwback kind of theme subset inside of the larger themes. The individual themes of No Clip in a year, if you put them together, tell a grander story.
But that's a puzzle for you to solve.
Exactly.
To reach the
I'm
center
not
of the
giving away
no-clip
too much
maze.
information. But until that time, you can get a hold of us. All of our contact information is on our website at noclippodcast.com, where you can find links to our Twitter account, the YouTube channel, our Discord server, and you can listen to any of our old episodes, including ones that we did on Abduction and Year Walk and Sayonara Wild Hearts and Device 6.
Yep.
I don't know why I started that with Abduction and then all the other Simogo.
I mean, because it's relevant.
Yeah. Year Walk, notably, was one of the games I think that sort of inspired us to do Pocket specifically.
Yeah,
Because that was like in our first 10 episodes.
We did fucking love that game.
Oh, yeah. That was one that we played before we had a podcast.
Yep.
And we're like, let's do this again because it rules.
Yeah, I happen to have a Wii U. And it was on there, so I think that may be how we found it.
Yeah. I think we were just browsing the Wii U eShop drunk. And we're like, this has got a cool deer guy on it.
Yeah. Spooky deer man. Or horse.
Yeah.
He's a horse.
He is
The
the
Brook horse. Yep. That's the one.
I was thinking of Deer Man, another spooky deer game that we can't play because it's a VR game and I don't have VR on my PC. This has gone on for too long. Please hit the like button and the subscribe.
Yeah.
And in the comment section.
Solve a cryptic puzzle box to get to the subscribe button.
Solve a cryptic puzzle box to get a torn page from our biography.
Say something to the old woman in the comment section.
Can you confirm whether or not I'm insane?